I'm excited to talk to this next guy. I listened to him a lot when he was working for the man.
Just critiqued our
He did.
advertising.
I respect it. He's got more experience in this field than we do. I respect it. He is making the jump over to the independent space like we are. He's learned that it's more fun that way, I think. He's joining Nick Underhill, the best place to get your New Orleans Saints information. So, Mike, I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for being here. Let's get right to the meat and potatoes of this thing.
Yeah.
The Saints-Bucs fight, quote-unquote fight. Obviously, Mike Evans gets a suspension. He's still suspended. His appeal was denied. Kind of feel like, and this is just coming from me, it kind of all started with Bruce Arians on the sidelines. I know that there's been a lot of conversation about why he was there, but I feel like that's kind of how it all started. Is that the feeling of it, and how did that thing get to where it got?
No, it didn't start with Bruce Arians on the sideline. It started a long time ago between Marshawn and Mike Evans.
Right.
Those two.
Right.
They didn't need an instigator. They didn't need Leonard Fournette. They didn't need Tom Brady. They didn't need Bruce Arians. They just needed any excuse, and that happened to be the one. But, no, look, that was a real raw deal for the Saints, I thought. I mean, look, Mike Pereira even said on the Fox broadcast, obviously this is going to be offsetting penalties. It's always offsetting. It's just like me as a parent, there's no, well, he started it. It's like, I don't care. Both go to your rooms. But it's a real shame for the Saints that when you think, if you had to judge just Fournette and Lattimore, I would say Fournette was more guilty than Lattimore. But at least let's call that even. What Mike Evans did was above and beyond, and maybe even the one-game suspension wasn't enough for what he did. But that doesn't help the Saints, that he's going to be suspended for the next game. The fact that there was an equal punishment after everything that occurred, and it killed the Saints. The only touchdown the Buccaneers scored after that, or the only offensive touchdown the Buccaneers scored, was picking on the third-string corner that came in after Lattimore got ejected. So that was a killer for the Saints. And I don't think it was what's the thing? I don't think it was premeditated by the Buccaneers, but if it had been, it was brilliant. Take those two guys out of the game. The Buccaneers got the better end of the deal.
If that was premeditated, I'm going to go more so to the fact that the NFL is rigged, because that's something that you would know the referee is going to do it. But there's a couple there's a phantom intentional helmet to helmet call. Obviously, you can pinpoint some of these tic tac calls that have happened. Saints it's happened to us a lot. I'm not going to get to that. Jameis wasn't 100%. He wasn't 100% healthy. Obviously, he was battling through some things. It's his back. How is he feeling? And Alvin Kamara wasn't there. Pain everywhere for Jameis.
He wasn't lying though.
No, he wasn't.
Now we know what he meant.
Right.
Four broken vertebrae in his back.
Yeah.
So I guess listen to that man when he says he's feeling pain.
Everywhere. It's just pain everywhere.
That's probably what I imagine 4 broken vertebrae in your back feels like. It probably, the L1 shoots up to here, the L4 shoots down to here. No, he was limited in practice today. He was out there. He was dressed. He was stretching. He was doing everything. But they said the plan is going to be the same as last week when he was limited on Wednesday, and then he did more as the week went on. They say there's no risk of further injury, meaning, the things
you can't
that
break
are
your
broken
back more.
Broken, but I don't know. Would he heal faster if he rested? I don't know. Does it get stiffer? Does it get harder to fight through? Does he find the right combination of padding and medication or whatever? I don't know, but that's going to be tough to deal with. And they've got a road trip to Carolina and then a road trip to London coming up. So, kudos to him for fighting through it. Nobody could really pinpoint, because he's not being too revealing in what he's saying. And Dennis Allen said he didn't really think any of the throws were necessarily affected by it. You have to think some subtleties are at least affected, because obviously he still has velocity. He was throwing 60-yard bombs down the field, but is that why he was missing Olave a little off to the right when he wanted to hit him down the center of the field, or is that just a really hard throw to make? It's hard to say.
When he wasn't running near as much, obviously, either. Like, he had some lanes that he probably could have, and you could tell, like, he wasn't 100%. I know there was one time where he had the first down and didn't run, and then ended up having to lower his shoulder, and I know that probably didn't feel very good. Alvin Kamara, what's the deal? Is he back? Is he practicing? Is he going to be healthy?
Looks better for him. Yeah, looks better for him. He did participate in practice at the beginning of the week, Wednesday last week too. So that doesn't guarantee anything, but it's obviously a great sign. seeing him out there on a limited basis today. And the word that we had gotten, too, was that they hoped he could be ready for this week, and that the Saints were even holding out some hope he might play last week, even though it seemed unlikely. So hopefully this week, but certainly does not seem like a long-term issue for him, which is important. And Paulson Adebo also, I don't know if he'll be ready to come back this week, but he was back practicing for the first time this season, and that's a big one too. So you get all these hands on deck, all of a sudden it's a pretty complete-looking roster.
Anytime you play division teams, it's difficult. Obviously, they're very familiar with each other. They play each other twice a year. You start the season off with 3 straight division games. You have to go to Carolina. They're 0-2. What are some of the things that Dennis Allen's talked about that they want to get better? Because the first game of the season they started off slow offensively. Last week, obviously, they didn't have a great offensive showing, but the Bucs defense has been historically really good. So, what's the things that the Saints are trying to do to improve on going into Week 3?
Yeah, I mean, all the improve on, we got to kind of lean on the offense. The defense proved that the Atlanta game was kind of an anomaly, which we thought it was because they played them so strangely, so out of character, just not knowing what they were going to see from Marcus Mariota and kind of just hanging back against him. They looked like themselves again, a dominant run defense. I'm not worried about the pass rush. Dennis Allen definitely said he's not worried about the pass rush because, the first game they chose not to rush Marcus Mariota. The second game, Tom Brady didn't let them by just throwing those quick passes, but he certainly wasn't effective. Tom Brady had a lousy game until he threw that one touchdown pass. So I think the defense looks strong. You do want to see more sacks. You do want to see them force more turnovers, but you're not overly concerned about that side of the ball. All the concerns are on offense where, they have to find their rhythm. I don't think we're going to see a team that can only score 3 points in the first 3 quarters consistently. I think that'll change. But I think we're going to see, I said this on the podcast with Nick today, I think we're going to see a lot of 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back with this offense, probably for a while. But there's still so much firepower on it that I said it has to lead to, 4 or 5 scores a game, 20-plus points a game. The 3 points through 3 quarters, it was a slow start against Atlanta, too. That would surprise me if that continues, but I think it'll be a work in progress for a while.
The way the NFL is set up right now, it's there's a lot of parity. Outside of the Bills, who look like they're unbeatable right now, it looks like everybody has a chance to beat everybody. Last weekend was a wild weekend, but obviously you go to 0-2 Carolina next week. We'll see.
Well, you hope Week 3 is not anybody can beat anybody for the Saints' sake.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
This is one where they should have the upper hand on the opponent based on where they are right now. But, look, we saw the Saints go into Carolina in Week 2 last year, and they got clobbered. And by the end of the year, that looked like a total anomaly. So for the Saints' sake, they better hope they clean up whatever issues they brought to Carolina with them last year.
Well, I'm expecting it to be another tight game there, just simply off the fact that they go 0-3. You're pretty much writing your death sentence for the rest of the season. So I would imagine that's going to be a very desperate group over there in Carolina. But speaking of the offense, speaking of the firepower, was Chris Olave's involvement in the game this past weekend something they've been trying to do, or was that just kind of how the game flew and kind of how things rolled?
A little of both. We've asked a lot of people this question this week too, and Dennis Allen said he thinks they went to the well a little too often, but it's hard to say exactly how many times that was Pete Carmichael going to the well and how many times that was Jameis Winston going to the well. But he said the one common factor in it was that Tampa Bay clearly was pinching Mike Thomas a lot. And so on all those throws, he had Olave in single coverage, and there was an opportunity there. Right. But as we saw, Olave having a step on a defender doesn't make it that much easier to complete a throw 55 yards down the field. And it took him – there were a total of 7 attempts. Right. 6th and 7th were finally profitable with a pass interference call and then a catch. But, you want to hit on half of those, not 2 out of 7.
And I guess that also shows you kind of the NFL game, right? You're used to seeing him running these routes in scarlet and gray, and there not being a defender within 5 yards of him, and all of these are tightly contested.
Yeah, he can adjust to a throw that's a little off target when he's the only one in the area.
A little more room for error.
Lloyd?
Oh, yeah, and when you get to kind of the Saints' defensive plan, which I think was a good one, and despite what happened, they were in the game late until the penalty happened, obviously, which I thought was going to be a momentum turner actually for the Saints because Mike Evans is Mike Evans, and he's going to do that. They held him to, 2 catches, I believe. But when you talk about Dennis Allen and Tom Brady, they're going to see each other later in the year, which I think when you look at the NFL and how it's going this year, that seems like when it's going to matter most, because you see the Packers start off 1-1. You see all of the teams that are kind of going to be involved late are going to start off a little bit slow because there's no preseason. But when you think about a Dennis Allen-led defense, what do you think Tom Brady sees? You saw him throw the iPad again.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering.
He's not looking forward to that.
Right.
Tom Brady did not solve the Dennis Allen defense.
No,
I mean,
not at all.
By the time that fight was happening early in the fourth quarter, I was already, I had my notes on all the things the Saints defense did well and adjusted to. Early,
wait, did you already have
Mike
your
Evans
story
play.
written and you had to delete?
No, but I was already thinking the story of this. I was thinking, well, I obviously knew that I didn't know how it was going to end when it was stuck in 3-3, but I thought there was a possibility the story was going to be Dennis Allen did it again without Sean Payton, without some of the same personnel in the secondary. He still got Tom Brady smashing his tablet, just like you said, and yelling at the refs and yelling at Marshawn Lattimore. And
it's Tom Brady.
And it didn't turn out that way. But Brady's not looking forward to this matchup again. Dennis Allen still and the Saints defensive personnel still cause problems for him. I think that is the most positive takeaway from this game.
And on top of that, what do you think that the Saints do well that a lot of other defenses can't seem to figure out against them?
Yeah. Well, we did a long piece on it over the weekend, and I actually talked to Drew Brees about it, and we kind of listed some of the things. But I mean, one of the main things is you have to have the personnel. And so I was a little curious, would it continue because they have all new guys in the secondary beyond Marshawn Lattimore this year from what they had years past? Since Paulson Adebo didn't play, they switched out their safeties. They traded away Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. But they did. They continued to match up really well. And the thing is, the reason they only had 1 sack in the game is it's not all-out blitz against Tom Brady. It's show them a different coverage, make these guys look like they're cheating up, move them back, make this safety look like he's dropping. He goes out it's just make Tom Brady think for an extra second. Don't give him enough time in the pocket and don't let him instantly recognize what's going on. And Dennis Allen's really good at that. Breeze had a great line for it. He said they call it the Rolodex defense, and you see teams do that against the best quarterbacks in the league, and that's something they do really well and continue to do really well against Tampa Bay.
Mike, I appreciate your time. Just a couple more questions for you. So
yeah.
I want to talk about the atmosphere of the Dome because I think that the Dome's had a lot of great games. Obviously, the first game back in the Dome when Steve Gleason blocked it, I don't know if you ever can match that energy and the electricity that's used after that block. But you've had some other big games. The last couple of years, I think there's been a lot of talk about the Dome just kind of felt like it hasn't been as energetic. I was in that number last weekend watching the game, and when Jarvis and Tyron come out and they start the Who Dat chant, that was as electric as I've seen the Dome in a very, very, very long time. Did you feel that same way? And is that something that the Saints are going to be a little bit, not, I guess they can't really force it, but bring the energy a little bit more?
Well, look, I couldn't agree more with you. And their record now, I think they've lost 6 of their last 8 home games, which is stunning. Obviously, 2020 was COVID, but I completely agree with you. That energy, the capacity crowds, the volume, it was not the same last year. I think the fan base, I saw this on social media too. There was some apathy. I talked to people this offseason who were like, I don't know if I'm going to renew my season tickets. They missed the playoffs for the first time in 5 years. That lets you know how spoiled the fan base has become. But so I do not think they signed Jarvis Landry and Tyrann Mathieu specifically for that reason. But the timing to finally sign some LSU stars that filled 2 big needs for this team at the time couldn't have been better, because I've seen a re-energized fan base. And I wouldn't even say the entire offseason. Shoot, they lost Sean Payton at the beginning of this offseason.
Right.
For whatever happened from April 1st, getting the 2 first-round draft picks, Chris Olave, the receiver that everyone wanted, and boom, signed Tyrann Mathieu, boom, signed Jarvis Landry. I think there's been a lot of energy since then, and I do think that carried over into the first home game. And I think that's something that'll continue as long as they remain in contention. So that's another reason to put pressure on this 2-game road trip that they have going on. They don't want to come back into the Dome as a 1-3 team and give the fans a chance to lose any of that momentum.
Right. Absolutely.
Obviously, I don't want to make too much of the Jameis injury because I don't know how much he's affected by it. You saw him throw some balls down the field. But was this a more of an indictment on Pete Carmichael where all right, it's time to see the Saints offense step up a little bit, or is this more of a Jameis injury thing? Like, I mean, it's hard to weigh one of the two. You had no Alvin Kamara. You got Chris Olave, who's a rookie wide receiver, going against a Buccaneers team that won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. But I'm wondering if, the lack of Sean Payton and Pete Carmichael's obviously going to catch some heat for when Jameis goes full Jameis.
Yeah, I don't know if indictment's the right word, though, because Dennis Allen had a really good point on Monday when he said for 3.5 quarters, we played that game exactly how we wanted to play that game. And I'm not saying the Mark Ingram fumble ruined everything, because that was an even trade-off. Tom Brady had a fumble just like that when Tampa Bay was going in field goal territory earlier in the game. That was a gift for the Saints when he fumbled that snap. So those two counteracted each other. But, there's a very realistic scenario where they go into the fourth quarter leading 10-3. And they were perfectly happy to win that game 10-3. They would have been happy to win 6-3. They would have, ideally it would have been more like 20-6 or something like that. But this was not a game that was going to be points. They turned down the 57-yard field goal attempt and decided to punt instead. They were willing to let this be an ugly, low-scoring, scratch it out, we'll take a 1-point win kind of game. And Jameis Winston, through the first 7 quarters of this season, didn't turn the ball over. He all 3 of those games. The first one, even Winston said today, he didn't hate that decision because it's like touchback. It was in the end zone. It didn't put the defense in a bad position. He hated the other 2, but he admitted he started pressing on the other 2. Then they were down. All of a sudden now they're down and time is running low. And then they were really down by the time the third one came. So that snowball effect came a little because of game situation, but I don't think their game plan was wrong.
Mike, I told you I was going to get you out here in 15-ish minutes, so this is my last question. It's not even about the game. It's more about you.
This man is chilling.
Yeah.
Listen, you and Nick Underhill are probably the 2 best sources of Saints information, right? I've enjoyed following you over the years. I've enjoyed Nick since he's been doing it. Y'all are both working for New Orleans.football. Talk about kind of going out on your own, joining the independent world of sports media. That's obviously the future of what's going on. That's what everybody's doing. What went into your decision, and are you happy doing it?
Yeah, well, first of all, I appreciate you saying that, and couldn't be happier. Look, I don't have a bad thing to say about ESPN. I love my 9 years there. The hardest part of the decision was having to leave them. I had 2 great options, but I fortunately had circumstances where I got to kind of be picky and choosy, kind of like Sean Payton. Now we were talking to him earlier today about how he's going to get to decide. I'll come back.
Hey, is he going to go? Is he going to go somewhere else? Is he going to go to Dallas? Just don't let him go to Dallas, please.
Well, you want him to go to Dallas because Dallas is going to have to pay up. You want him to go somewhere
that's true. That's a very good point.
Pay up.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That's a very good point.
Dallas might come with you want him to go somewhere who has to give up a first-round pick for him if you're a Saints fan. But look, I really like. I was able to be really picky and choosy, kind of the old. Well, if you could pick any job you want, what would it be? And Nick covers the team the way I love the team being covered. He gave me the opportunity to join him and have a teammate again at ESPN. I was kind of the one person covering the Saints. Now there's 2 of us. You handle this, I handle this. You play to your strengths, I'll play to my strengths. A little more analysis, a little more opinion, a lot more podcasting. I love the setup we have, and hopefully everybody's been loving it. I don't know if we can keep up the pace we put together over the last week, but if you haven't caught up with everything we've done over the last week, if you don't like that kind of stuff, then I don't know what we got for you.
We're huge fans. I follow y'all. I appreciate your time. I'm going to continue to follow you out through the course of the year. You're great. I'd love to have you back on at some point throughout the course of the year, kind of get your take on it and your updates. We're trying to do the same thing here, do the whole independent thing. So I appreciate your time. Looking forward to reading and seeing what the future holds.
And for people that can't read, how do you subscribe to New Orleans.football?
Look, just follow me or Nick on Twitter and click on any of the articles, and it'll take you right to a link. But I think he's still got some specials going on. I know there were some specials. Firehouse Subs had one too. So I would say just scroll down Nick's Twitter feed and look for a coupon code.
Hey, that's not a bad strategy.
That's the bug, dude. That's what Mikey does to me all the time.
That's not a bad strategy. I like that. Work harder. Work smarter, not harder. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's it. Mike, I appreciate it, man. Enjoy the rest of your night, and look forward to talking to you again.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys.
Appreciate it.